Thank you. It really is an honour to be able to represent Uprise Energy this evening and to pitch that in front of you. It's actually quite scary when the power goes out, isn't it? Actually, I should use the microphone. So this is a serious issue. 1.4 billion people in the world live under these conditions where they do not have access to reliable energy. What that means is people die. People die in hospitals and in conditions that they otherwise shouldn't because energy is not reliable. We can have the lights back on. That was just a little bit of theatre. So what happens is there are millions of people around the world who are reliant upon diesel generators who live off-grid or at the edge of the grid. And the cost is material, not just to human lives, but those diesel generators are expensive and they come at a very significant environmental cost. So there is solutions. Obviously, renewable energy is fantastic, but the requirement to build renewable energy at a reliable level requires very significant infrastructure, cost, and time. So Uprise Energy has come up with the solution. And the answer is really obvious. If we look around us, the world is wireless. These are wireless, our laptops are wireless. Why isn't our energy wireless? And what they have created is the world's first portable wind energy creator, wind energy generator. They are able to be installed within an hour. That is one, what do we work out? 1/17,000th of the time that it takes to build and install a regular windmill. They produce energy at 10% of the cost of diesel generators. That's about 25% the cost of grid energy. They work in almost all conditions. So they cover conditions that are prevalent in 90% of Australia, and when those conditions aren't present, they actually have storage built into the unit. So how have they done this? And there are multiple bits of the secret sauce. The first is the blades that go into the actual windmill themselves. Uprise Energy tested 2 million designs to come up with the optimal blade. They also have some patented technology called dancing with the wind, which makes these units the only windmills in the world that actually adapt automatically to the conditions that are around them. So what that means is optimizes the energy output for any conditions that they live in automatically. The guys didn't just stumble upon this. They've been working in the space of materials and design for many, many years. In fact, the Department of Energy commissioned them to design a windmill blade, and the smart blade that they created has become the #1 performance blade in history. So how are they going? They're going extremely well. They are about a year off having a production-ready unit, and we'll come back to that in a moment. On that unit, they have 1,500 pre-orders, and they also have proven the efficiency of their units in Californian conditions, and have a ready-to-launch subscription solution that allows also another world first, which is remote monitoring and management of the windmill units. The market for this is enormous. There are millions, or hundreds of millions of diesel generators around the world. Almost all of those are replaceable by Uprise Energy units. But by having portable, efficient, and cost-effective energy production, they actually open up all kinds of new markets, from battlefields to remote locations to edge of grid and off-grid. The economics are very attractive. For the hardware units themselves, it's about a 50% margin, and on top of that, they have the ability to sell subscription services as a SaaS model. So within 5 years, we're forecasting $1.2 billion of hardware revenue, that was with a B, and $25 million of recurring revenue annually at the 5-year mark. So just to put that into perspective, that is several times more rapid growth than both Atlassian and Canva, but it also happens to save the world. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, there is an ask. The company is raising $3 million. And I'll come back to the point I made earlier about it being a year off having a production-ready unit. Every dollar that we can raise at the moment compresses that timeline. So within raising $3 million will allow Uprise Energy to have production units in market within 6 months. But there are a number of distributors that are already beating down the door to get hold of these units. There are hundreds of millions, there are tens of millions of units already on demand in Indonesia, a distributor who wants to take that. So we can raise our $3 million now, we're able to service that demand within 6 months. Uprise Energy solves the world's most pressing energy problems with an out-of-the-box solution that optimises for both social and financial outcomes. If you would like to be part of that journey, I would urge you to come and see Jonathan afterwards, and he will tell you how you can be part of it. But if that isn't enough to get your vote tonight, it's actually Jonathan's wife's birthday today. And she is here as well. So if we can't get your vote on it being the world's most effective and efficient energy source, surely we get the human vote as well.
Okay, well that was amazing. I now totally want to invest, not just because it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Now, if we want to just hear from you having to come up and share some thoughts on that incredible pitch.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I think the only thing that was missing was the mic drop. Yeah, that was excellent, Paul. Thank you very much. And the fact that we just started speaking on this yesterday afternoon, and the amount that he was able to digest and regurgitate so smoothly is quite impressive. Thank you.
I was like, Jonathan kept on telling me more amazing facts about this business. I was like, please stop. One in and one out. There is so much more.
Yeah, so I imagine that probably, putting a visual to this description that Paul gave you is probably a good starting point. So this is the portable wind turbine that we've developed. The entire machine fits in a shipping container, a standard 20-foot shipping container, so it can be easily shipped anywhere in the world. And when it arrives on site, one person can set the whole machine up in 1 hour's time without any site improvements or heavy equipment. So, but more importantly is the machine's ability to operate in the lower wind speed conditions that are commonly found around the world. And that's where we really did some special, came up with some special technology to do that. I'm just gonna repeat a lot of what Paul already talked about, but our blade design and the dancing with the wind feature, that is all a part of our IP. I wonder if there's some questions from the audience that might help facilitate this, so I can, because I don't want to just repeat everything that Paul said. His pitch is very similar to what I typically talk about.
Do you do the lights?
Do I do the lights?
You turn the lights off as well.
Oh. No, that's a bit of theatrics I haven't used yet. Might have to borrow that one in the future, though.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, in terms of, I wanted to know what would be the price point, and also what would be your go-to-market strategy in countries that would really need this? Because in the Aussie parlance, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, I'm getting energy already, maybe in South Australia, if there's a shortage, I'll probably buy it, but like, families in South America don't understand, like, some of them don't even have smartphones yet, so is this cheaper than a smartphone? And then, if you were to put it into those countries, what would be the go-to-market strategy with the vested interest in those countries with electricity grids that they already own or are making money off?
Sure. So we are going to market selling units in volume to commercial customers like Agreco, Caterpillar, Downer, customers of that nature that are buying in volume, or we're going to market with distribution partners that are representing territories with sales, service, and support. Paul referenced one of our territories, Indonesia, where our distribution partner in that market is indicating a demand for 10,000 units per year. The unit cost here is $80,000 is what we intend to sell this at volume to the distribution partners and commercial customers. But what that translates to over a lifetime is generating power at 10 to 30 cents per kilowatt hour if you're operating in a 4.5 to 9 meter per second wind. This power here is probably 40 cents, An off-grid solar and battery array is probably 50 cents, and diesel power generation is $1 plus. So I know that I may not have addressed your specific question, but I hope I gave enough highlights there to kind of fill in the blanks.
Oh, hi. My name's Miles Tan from Our Walls. No, maybe later. Just a quick question. I love the concept, but from an Australian perspective, how does it apply with permits where these units can be set up? And when you talk about your initial target market, who are the types of partners that you're looking to sell this to?
Yeah, well, so when you look at a portable diesel generator, in most cases, a permit is not required. But there's never been a portable wind turbine that stands 20 meters tall with a 7-meter rotor diameter that rotates at 150 RPM. So I guess you could say that we might operate in a little bit of a gray area in that regard. This is not something that you're going to put in your backyard in an urban environment, but in a remote area where you do have some space, there's going to be a good application for this.
I think governments are very supportive of it as well, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Governments are very supportive because you're lowering cost and you're reducing carbon footprint. And so, for example, we have customers in Vietnam, Philippines, and Laos where we're working directly with the governments there to replace expensive diesel generation with lower cost clean energy. And so there is a lot of government support to bring this type of technology online in those markets.
Hi Jonathan, I've got a question. Who is your primary target market with this product? I think social need is a really big need when it comes to electricity, primary need in terms of needing power. And there's some social issues that can be addressed with this. Poor countries around the world who could really use the service. And then on the other hand, there's this perception around green energy, renewable energy as being something that's for the rich and middle class. So my question is, who's your primary market?
So there's a market application for this technology across a number of different markets. The fact that it produces power for less than this utility power that we're using here in this room, there's an opportunity for commercial customers to lower their power bill. But where we have our real competitive advantage is at the grid's edge and beyond. And we can really make a difference in the world by bringing power to those that live in energy poverty. Now, as far as a go-to-market plan, at a very high level, we have commercial customers, government and military, but the biggest market of them all is humanitarian. Some of the easiest, quickest adopters are going to be those commercial customers that have the budget in order to implement this type of technology. The government and military applications are potentially going to be a longer incubation period, and the humanitarian applications are going to require some more creative business models around them to make them work. Now, we did a white paper for bringing power to remote areas in Africa. And a common question that you get is, well, okay, the power is great, but how are they going to be able to afford a technology like this? Well, the answer is that this is the technology that they can't afford not to have. And I say that because currently in Africa, host governments are supporting their own population to the tune of about $5,000 per person per year. You bring one of our mobile power stations into a village, and now when you have power, you can do almost anything. People become self-sufficient. People become connected. They get off the dole. They convert their life from sustenance to productivity. They improve education, they improve health, and they become a productive member of society. And that $5,000 number per person gets reduced to an average of $55 per person when you bring one of our machines in. So that's why I say it's the technology that they can't afford not to have.
Hi, Jonathan. My name is Zubin. Sounds like a great product. Now, forgive my ignorance. I know nothing about this space, but when you say 10 kilowatts per unit, first part of the question is how much does that actually power? Can you give me an example in a real home situation? And I can give you my second part, or I can wait for you. Okay, the second part is, why is mobility an important aspect to this, given that you're actually taking it to places where there's energy poverty? Why wouldn't governments just invest in fixed interest? Why is mobility a unique selling point to something that is going to electrify communities, which you think is a fairly permanent thing, and I'm assuming the competition is slightly cheaper to give you a permanent structure?
Sure. So, real quickly to go backwards through that, it's a fair assumption that you would think that a fixed installed wind turbine would be cheaper than our portable unit. But the reality is when you look at the leading technology in this space for fixed wind turbines, their installed cost is on par with our technology. Now, our technology, because of the performance advantages, we have a significantly better performance in the neighborhood of 4x better. So our ongoing cost of operation and the cost of electrons that we are delivering to the customer are significantly lower than those other machines. Now the other part of this though, yes, portability does allow you to move the machine from one location to the next. And some applications, the military applications, the disaster relief applications, the roving doctor applications, the farmers with large property that want to move it around their property, the portability plays nicely into that. But on the other hand, when you make the decision to put in a traditional wind turbine, the incubation period from the time you say that you want it to the time that it's actually up and running is 2 years at best. And that's because when you get married to a site, when you permanently install your wind turbine in one location, you want to know for sure that that location is going to be appropriate for your wind turbine. So you're going to go through an 18-month wind study just to make sure that that spot's got enough wind to make your wind turbine worth it. Our machine, on the other hand, wheel it in, set it up. If it works good there, great, leave it. If you think it'd be better on the other side of the barn, then 2 hours later, it's over there. You know, and in some cases, you know, in summer it's going to blow good over there, and in winter it's going to blow good over there. And so you have the option to follow the wind and move it to a better location as desired, but you also decrease that initial setup time by 1/17,000 of the time.
Good stat.
Good stat, yes. So, now I'm sorry, I started with your second question. Your first question was how much does 10 kilowatts power? So yeah, so 10 kilowatts, up to 20 average Australian homes at full tilt. A remote village of 150 people or a good sized job site. It's a very meaningful amount of power.
For what period of time? For a day, a week?
For as long as the wind blows.
So what he's saying is it's 10 kilowatts.
It'll make 10 kilowatts of instantaneous power in a 9 meter per second wind. So if you have that type of wind speed, now that is a higher wind speed than what is, you know, typically found. And so what we optimized around was a 4.5 meter per second wind, which is, it happens to be the global average wind speed. It's significantly lower than what conventional wind turbines are even able to operate in, and we make reliable, cost-effective power in that condition. So as long as you have a nominal amount of wind and enough space to set this up, there are economic and environmental advantages to using our technology over incumbent energy generation.
Do you need an existing grid?
No, we can connect to a utility power grid, we can connect to a microgrid, we can operate in a standalone islanded condition, and we can work in a hybrid configuration, and with any other form of power generation. So hybrid with solar, with diesel, with hydro, you name it, we play nicely with it.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Paul. That was fantastic. Lots of good dramatic.